and our ability to do extreme co-design allows us to deliver that value and that benefit to the customers. And that is the single most vital thing as it relates to our value delivered.
Your next question comes from Antoine Chikaiban with New Street Research. Your line is open.
Hi, thanks a lot for taking my question. I'd like to ask about space data centers, which some of your customers are considering. How feasible do you think that is, and on what kind of horizon? And what do the economics look like today, and how do you think that could evolve over time? Thank you.
Well, the economics are poor today, but it's going to improve over time. As you know, the way that space works is radically different than how it works down here. There's an abundance of energy, but solar panels are large, but there's plenty of space in space. The heat dissipation, it's cold in space. However, there's no airflow, and so the only way to dissipate heat is through conduction. And the radiators that you need to create are fairly large. Liquid cooling is obviously out of the question because it's heavy and freezes, and so the methods that we use here on Earth are a little different than the way we would do it in space. But there are many different computing problems that really wants to be done in space, and so Nvidia is already the world's first GPU in space. Hopper is in space, and one of the best use cases of GPUs in space is imaging, to be able to image at extremely high resolutions using of course optics and artificial intelligence, and to be able to do that computation of reprojection of different angles and be able to up-res and do noise reduction and just be able to image at very high resolutions, extremely large scales, and very, very fast. It's hard to do that by sending petabytes and petabytes of imaging data back here on Earth and doing that work. It's easier just to do it out in space, and then ignore all of the data collected and processed until you see something interesting. And so artificial intelligence in space will have very good, very interesting applications.
Your next question comes from Mark Lipacis with Evercore ISI. Your line is open.
Hi, thanks for taking my question. I want to pick up with the comment you made on the script about revenue diversification. I believe, Colette, you said that hyperscalers were over 50% of revenues, but growth was led by the rest of your data center customers. And as a clarification, I just want to make sure I understood that. Does that imply your non-hyperscale customers grew faster? And if so, can you help us understand what are the non-hyperscalers doing different? Are they doing different things than the hyperscalers, or the same things on a different scale? And do you expect this trend to continue? Would you expect your customer base to evolve to a point where non-hyperscalers become a bigger part of your the larger part of your business? Thank you.
Yes, let's see if we can help on this question. So when you think about our top 5, as we articulated as being our CSPs, our hyperscalers, and they have right now sat at about 50% of our total revenue. There's a big organization, therefore, of diversity of all different other types of companies that we are working with. That it goes through our AI model makers, that goes through our enterprises, that goes to supercomputing, it goes to our sovereigns. There's a lot of other different facts on there. But you are correct. It's a very fast-growing area as well. We have a strong position in terms of all of our different cloud providers on our platform. And now we also have an extreme diversity of different customers that we are seeing all the way across the world. And this will really benefit seeing that diversity and being able to serve all of those parts. Let me see if Jensen wants to add a bit more.
Yeah, this is one of the advantages that we have with our ecosystem, all built on top of CUDA. We're the only accelerated computing platform that is in every cloud, that's available through every single computer maker, available at the edge, And we're now cultivating telecommunications. Obviously, the future radios will all be AI-driven radios, and the future wireless network will also be a computing platform. That is a foregone conclusion, but somebody has to go and invent the technologies to make that possible. And we created a platform called Ariel to go do that. We're out in just about every single robot, every single self-driving car. Our ability, CUDA's ability, to have the benefit of the performance of specialized processors on the one hand, with the tensor cores inside our GPUs. On the other hand, the flexibility of CUDA allows us to solve language problems, computer vision problems, robotics problems, to biology problems, physics problems, and just about all kinds of AI and all kinds of computation algorithms. And so the diversity of our customer base is one of the greatest strengths that we have. The second thing, of course, is without our own ecosystem, even if our processor was programmable, if we didn't cultivate our ecosystem, and talking about some of the things that we're doing today, investing in our future ecosystem and continue to enhance our ecosystem. Without our ecosystem, it's hard for us to grow beyond what design wins we capture for somebody else's ecosystem. And so we could grow and expand our ecosystem very naturally because of our the platform that we created. And then lastly, one of the things that's really important is the partnerships that we have with OpenAI and Anthropic, with xAI, with Meta, now makes, and of course, just about every single open source in the world. There's 1.5 million AI models on Hugging Face. All of it runs on NVIDIA CUDA. And so an open source in totality probably represents the largest, it's the second largest model in the world. OpenAI is the largest. Second largest is probably all the collection of all the open sources. And so NVIDIA's ability to run all of that makes our platform super fungible, super easy to use, and really safe to invest into. And so that creates the diversity of customers and the diversity of the platforms, and available in every single country, and because we support the whole world's ecosystem.
Your next question comes from Aaron Rakers with Wells Fargo. Your line is open.
Yeah, thanks for taking the question. I guess, sticking with the idea of the platform and extreme co-design, some of the news over this last quarter has obviously been NVIDIA's ability or push to bring Vera CPUs to market on a standalone solution basis. So I guess, Jensen, I'm curious of what's the importance that Vera plays in this architecture evolution as we move forward? Is this being driven more by the proliferation or the heterogeneity of inference workloads? I'm just curious of how you see that evolving for NVIDIA, particularly on a standalone CPU basis. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. And I'll tell you some more about it at GTC. But at the highest level, we made fundamentally different architecture decisions about our CPUs compared to the rest of the world's CPUs. It's the only data center CPU that supports LPDDR5. It is designed to be focused on very high data processing capabilities. And the reason for that is because most of the computing problems that we're interested in are data-driven, artificial intelligence being one. And the single-threaded performance in this ratio with bandwidth is just off the charts. And we made those architectural decisions because in the entire phase, the different phases of AI, from data processing, before you even do training, you have to do data processing. So you have data processing, pre-training, and in post-training now, the AIs are learning how to use tools. And the usage of tools, many of those tools run in CPU-only environments, or they run in CPU with GPU-accelerated environments. And Vera was designed to be an excellent CPU for post-training. And so some of the use cases in the entire pipeline of artificial intelligence includes using a lot of CPUs. You know, we love CPUs as well as GPUs, and when you accelerate the algorithms to the limit as we have, Amdahl's law would suggest that you need really, really fast single-threaded CPUs, and that's the reason why we built Grace to be extraordinarily great at single-threaded performance, and Vera is off the charts better than that.
Your next question comes from Tim Arcuri with UBS. Your line is open.
Thanks a lot. Colette, I was wondering if you can talk about the deployment of capital. I know that you really jacked up the purchase commits, but it sounds like maybe you're over the hump on this, and you're going to probably generate about $100 billion in cash this year. So, and you know, pretty much no matter how good the results have been, the stock hasn't really gone up much. So I would think that you probably feel like this is a pretty good price to be, you know, buying back a bunch of it here. So I was wondering if you can talk about that, like, you know, question being, why not put a big stake in the ground and just, you know, have a huge share repo here? Thanks.
So thanks for the question. We look at our capital return very, very carefully, and we do believe that one of the most important things that we can do is really supporting the extreme ecosystem that's in front of us, that stems from everywhere, from our suppliers and the work that we need to do to assure that we can have the supply that's needed and help them from a capacity, all the way that we are in terms of the early developers of the AI solutions that will be on our platform. So we will continue to make this a very important part of our process and strategic investments. But of course, we are still repurchasing our stock. We are still with our dividend as well. And we will continue to find the right unique opportunities within the year for doing those different purchases.
Your final question comes from Jim Schneider with Goldman Sachs. Your line is open.
Thank you for taking my question. Justin, you've previously outlined the potential to get to 3 to 4 trillion of data center capex by 2030, which implies a potential acceleration in growth rates, which you've sort of guided to this, at least this next quarter. The question is, what are some of the key application areas that you believe are most likely to drive that inflection? Is that physical AI, agentic, or something else? And do you still feel good about that $3 to $4 trillion envelope? Thank you.
Yeah, let's back that up and just reason through it from a few different ways. So the first way is on first principles, the way that software is done in the future using AI is token driven. And I think everybody talks about tokenomics and talks about data centers generating tokens, and inference is about generating tokens. And we generate tokens. You know, we were just talking about tokens, how NVIDIA's NVLink 72 enabled us to generate tokens at 50 times better performance per unit energy than the previous generation. And so token generation is at the center of almost everything that relates to software in the future and relates to computing. If you look at the way we use computing in the past, however, the amount of computation demand for software in the past is a tiny fraction of what is necessary in the future. And AI is here. AI is not going to go back. AI is only going to get better from here. And so if you think about it, and you said, okay, well, the world was investing about $300 to $400 billion a year in classical computing, and now AI is here, and the amount of computation necessary is 1,000 times higher than the way we used to do computing. The computing demand is just a lot higher. And so if we continue to believe there's value in it, and we'll talk about that in a second, then the world will invest to produce that token. And so the amount of token generation capability that the world needs is a lot more than $700 billion. And I'm fairly confident that we're going to continue to generate tokens. We're going to continue to invest in compute capacity from this point out. And fundamentally, because every single company depends on software, every software will depend on AI. And so every company will produce tokens. And that's the reason why I call them AI factories. And whether you're a company in the cloud data centers, you have AI factories to generate tokens for your revenues. If you're an enterprise software company, you're going to generate tokens for the agentic systems that are on top of your tools. If you are a robotics factory, and self-driving cars, first indication of that, you have huge supercomputers, which are basically AI factories, to generate tokens that goes into your cars, that becomes its AI. And then you also have to put computers inside the cars to continuously generate tokens. And so we're fairly sure now that this is the future of computing. Now, why is it so certain that this is the future of computing? And the reason for that is because the way we used to do software was pre-recorded. Everything was captured a priori. We pre-compile the software, we pre-write the content, we pre-record the videos. But now everything is generative in real time. And when it's generated in real time, it can take into context of the person, the situation, the query, and the intentions could all be taken into consideration to generate the outcome of this new software we call AI, Agentic AI. And so the amount of computation necessary is far, far greater than pre-recorded. You know, just as a computer has a lot more computation capability than a DVD recorder, a DVD player that was pre-recorded, artificial intelligence needs a lot more computing capability than the way we used to do software in the past. Now, the question about computation, about sustainability at the first level is just at the computer science level. This is the way computing is going to be done. Now, from an industrial level, because all of our companies in the final analysis are powered by software, and the cloud companies are powered by software, and if the new software requires tokens to be generated, and the tokens are monetized, then it stands to reason that their data center build-out directly drives their revenues. And so compute drives revenues. And I think they all understand that. I think people are increasingly starting to understand that as well. And then lastly, the benefits that AI produces for the world ultimately has to generate revenues. And we're seeing right in front, right being developed as we see, as we stand here, Agentic AI has turned an inflection point. And it literally happened in the last couple of 2-3 months. Of course, inside the industry, we've been seeing it for a while, probably 6 months or so. But the world is now awakened to the Agentic AI inflection. The agents are super smart. They're solving real problems. Coding is obviously supported by agentic systems now. And all of our coders here at Nvidia are using agentic systems, either Cloud Code or OpenAI Codex, enormously and oftentimes both, and Cursor, oftentimes all three, depends on the use case. But they have agents and design partners, engineering partners to help them solve problems. And you could see their revenue skyrocketing. These companies, in the case of Anthropic, I think their revenues 10x in a year. And they are severely capacity constrained because demand is just incredible. And the token demand is incredible. The token generation rate is growing exponentially. And the same thing with, of course, OpenAI. Their demand is incredible. And so the more compute that they can bring online, the faster their revenues will grow. And that goes back to the comment that I was saying, that inference is revenues, that compute equals revenues now in this new world. And in a lot of ways, that's the reason why we say it's a new industrial revolution. There are new factories, new infrastructure being built, and this new way of doing computing is not going to go back. And so, to the extent that we believe that producing tokens is going to be the future of computing, which I believe, and I think largely the industry believes, then we're going to be building out this capacity from this point forward and continue to expand from here. Now, the thing that is the wave that we're seeing now is the agentic AI inflection, and the next inflection beyond that is physical AI, where we take AI and these agentic systems into the physical applications, such as manufacturing, such as robotics. And so that's a giant opportunity ahead. Okay.
This concludes the question and answer session. I'll turn the call to Toshiya Hari.
In closing, please note Jensen will be participating in a fireside chat at the Morgan Stanley TMT conference in San Francisco